Hello, welcome. I'm Angie Austin with Oil and Gas 360, and we are at EnerCom's 2016 Oil and Gas Conference. This is the 21st year of the conference, so welcome. We are joined by Scott Rees. He is Chairman and CEO with Netherland, Sewell and Associates. Welcome, Scott.
Hello, Angie.
All right, let's start with Netherland Sewell has a reputation in the industry as being at the top tier of providers. Petroleum consulting services, reserves reports, and related analyses. So how big is the company, and what has put Netherland Sewell in an industry-leading position?
Okay, good question. The company, we have about 170 employees, probably about 110 to 120 in our Dallas office, and the remaining in our Houston office. And it's probably one of the larger firms that does what we do, provide petroleum consulting services. What makes us different, I guess, or helped us with our growth over the years, the simplest thing really is just the people we hire. We think we hire some of the best people in the industry. Most of the engineers, geologists, petrophysicists have experience with majors like Exxon or Chevron or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we kind of get to take some of the brightest out of those companies. They have the training from those companies, and then see if they like doing what we do. So bring them into the consulting side where they really get to use a little bit more of their technical skill set than they may have in an Exxon or a Chevron or something like that.
Nice. All right, let's talk about who Netherland Sewell works for. Are you working for oil companies, banks, private equity firms? And tell us a little about the typical client and what exactly you do for the typical client.
So one is probably all of the ones you listed are clients in some form or fashion. Because of the work we do, because what we're supposed to be doing is providing independent kind of vetting of oil and gas reserves. What are the reserves and the value of those reserves underground? So we're supposed to be independent traditionally, and so it's important that we stay independent and that the banks and the financial institutions trust us. Essentially, the clients are usually the oil and gas companies. They're the ones that usually hire us, mm-hmm. pay us, give us the data to do the work and stuff like that, maybe manage the timeline as they can. But ultimately, our work that we provide to them gets then passed on to the banks. And if the banks don't trust that we actually have their interests at heart too, then we won't have we'll lose the reputation we have now. So it's important for us to do that.
All right, so let's talk your process. What's your process when a client comes to you with a project? Say it's a potential property acquisition for an operator. Where do you start, and how do you go about attacking a project?
You know, usually the best thing to do when a client calls us up or kind of starts to get us engaged is find out what they think they need. In other words, what kind of expertise from us do they need? Do they need it to actually be just to help them on their technical team to figure out the asset and make sure they pay what they think is the right value? Or are they ultimately use our work for financing or somehow getting some money for that acquisition? In some cases it is they just need kind of an engineer that's familiar with that area of the world. They don't really need our Netherland Sewell third-party reserve report. They just want some expertise to help them out because they haven't worked that area of the world before. In other cases, they do need the full reserve report at the end. They don't have as much technical staff, certainly available to work on the acquisition. They may be drilling wells or doing other things, and so they get us involved to do that. Where do we start? It kind of depends on the acquisition. Some are data room driven, where the seller has a data room that you schedule a day or two to go in the data room, and you go look at the data, copy what you want, bring it back and work it. In other cases, it's a negotiated deal where you may be talking to one other company and they say, come over to our offices, let's show you what's going on. So it really starts with where's the data and then what kind of assets are there.
Excellent. All right, let's get some of your expertise from you because of your experience. Thinking about your years in the industry, what's your view of where things stand in 2016? So what are you seeing that's different today compared to other booms and busts that the industry has been through in the past?
You know, that's tough. One is we're kind of engineers, geologists, scientists, so we like to look at data to study things. You know, one of the things that's happened through the boom let's go all the way from the early 2000s through 2014. So even though we had a little slip of pricing in 2008, 2009, the industry's been pretty robust through that time frame. From the engineer part of me says we were going too fast with how many rigs we had running, what we were doing. Everyone was drilling more wells, they were drilling tighter spacing. Most E&P companies were paying to get things done yesterday. And when you do that, you're paying a lot more than it really would cost. If you could wait 3 weeks, it would cost you $50,000. You want it done yesterday, it cost you $150,000.
Right.
So our cost structure was getting out of control in the industry. the expectations, try to keep up with the Joneses. Everyone's trying to drill faster, and
right.
show that they're really doing it. And this ability to slow down and actually see what we actually have from the wells drilled prior to 2015, and then some of the drilling that's gone on since then. What's interesting to me is, some theory is that the reason the Saudis or OPEC kind of tapped the brake on production and pricing is they thought shale was getting too far ahead of itself. There was too many wells being drilled and stuff like that. What's ended up, if that is the reason, they miscalculated, because what has happened is everyone is a lot more efficient now. You've seen people that are able to drill longer laterals, costs have come down 40%, people are drilling a lot faster. So what was economic 2 years ago, 3 years ago at $90, it's economic now at $50 or $60. So they haven't really changed anything except made us a much stronger industry. Again, the unfortunate things, companies have had problems, bankruptcies, people have lost jobs. I guess I have a job, so it's easy to say this, but I think with pretty good confidence, there will be jobs coming back to all those people that have had a rough time the last year or two. The industry will be back on its feet pretty quickly.
Good news. All right, Netherland Sewell is providing services worldwide. So can you talk about which jurisdictions the company works in and how the global business compares to North America?
So we do work globally. Probably about between 30 and 40% of our work is done on international projects. So the 60 to 70%, and it changes year to year depending on projects domestically. I would say one change is, in general, is the shale plays are big in the Americas, primarily in the U.S. So those are big. A lot of drilling's been going on over the years, even though it's slowed down now. And it's more conventional or unconventional type stuff, type curves, decline curve, stuff like that. Internationally, it's still mostly large projects, multi-billion-dollar projects, where people are having to make decisions, and it's tough. They can't change that decision once if they commit $2 billion, they're spending it because there's not a way to increment in. Where in the U.S., you can have a $2 billion project to drill 2,000 wells, but you're going to do it one well at a time, so you can slow down, speed up, stuff like that. But in the current environment, the international world has slowed down a lot. A lot of projects are getting deferred. There's various reports that show how much capital is not being spent, which ultimately is going to make it tougher. When prices start going up and production is kind of declining, it's going to make it tougher to keep prices down because it's going to react. There's not going to be a quick reaction time in the international, slower there. All
right, Scott, anything you want to add?
No, thank you very much. This is a great conference that EnerCom puts on, and Oil and Gas 360 seems like a great website. I get emails, I guess, twice a day from them, and they're always pretty interesting.
Oh, good. Well, the team will be happy to hear that. Thank you, Scott. All right, Scott Rees, Chairman and CEO with Netherland, Sewell and Associates, and I am Angie Austin with Oil and Gas 360. Thanks for joining us.